one and only Norman Lear. Next we have Steve Randall. Steve has been a long time editor for Playboy magazine. Steve, would you come up, please?
Watch that for a step, Steve. You're right, that's one hell of a step. Hello. I'd like to think of myself as representing all of us who ever worked for Hef over the past 64 years, especially those of us who worked for him at the magazine. Most employees of Playboy Enterprises discovered very quickly that Hef was the king of the short, super efficient meeting. If you were an executive talking to Hef, you learned to get straight to the point with no small talk. He'd respond very quickly, and then your meeting was over. 5 minutes was a long time to keep Hef's attention. He could be a very impatient man. That is, unless you worked for the magazine. Hef had a passion for the magazine that was unrivaled by anything I've ever seen in my entire life. He never tired of talking about the magazine, tinkering with the magazine, agonizing about the magazine, getting excited about the magazine. When I first arrived at Playboy, it was not unusual for the monthly editorial meeting around the dining room table to last 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. There were meetings that lasted even longer. After he had his stroke, those meetings became less frequent and shorter, but Hef's interest in the magazine was always, shall we say, way beyond intense. There was one time, a few years ago, when there had been some upheaval at the magazine and the staff needed to be reconfigured. A handful of us congregated in the dining room for a meeting with Hef to get our new marching orders. One editor flew in from New York, 3 others from Chicago. I was based in LA, so I was already here. Hef was enthusiastic, fired up, excited. He was really had grand views of what the new incarnation of Playboy was going to be. The meeting lasted a few hours, and Hef was clearly having a good time. The out-of-towners, the other editors, were staying up the street a couple blocks at the Playmate House, and after the meeting, they returned to the Playmate House. There was one Chicago editor, Lee Freilich, who's here today. He had never seen the mansion before, so I was giving him a tour of the mansion after the meeting. When we returned to my car, which was in the circle by the front door, Hef was standing outside, and he was holding boards. Now, boards are very large, flimsy pieces of cardboard that the pages of the magazine are pasted on. It's how we worked on the magazine, and he's holding them like this. And he's standing out in the middle of the circle. And when we approached, Hef said to us, "Where's Tom?" He meant Tom Stabler, our art director, and arguably one of Hef's favorite employees of all time. And I said, "Tom's already back at the Playmate House." Hef was very disappointed. He clearly had more magazine business on his mind. I said, "We're going back to the Playmate House. Do you want me to send Tom back to you?" "No," said Hef, "I'll just go with you." And with that, Hugh Hefner, in pajamas, holding the boards like this, jumped in the front seat of my Prius. I can't begin to tell you how odd that was. Hef didn't leave the mansion much, and when he did, I assure you it wasn't in a Prius. I'm not by nature a nervous driver, but there's something surreal about having Hugh Hefner riding shotgun in your car. I wasn't sure what to do. I didn't even know if I was allowed to take him off the property without permission. All I could hear was Mary O'Connor yelling at me. "What in the hell do you think you're doing? He's not your little buddy." We got to the Playmate House, And while Hef was getting out holding the boards, I ran ahead to get inside to warn the rest of them that Hef was about to walk through the door. God knows what they would have been doing, what they would have been smoking, what they would have been wearing. I felt the need to protect them. Hef entered, boards. We sat down at the big table at the Playmate House and basically continued the meeting we had had earlier. Hef had more ideas, more suggestions, more criticisms, and so did we. Here's one of the most important things that I learned from Hugh M. Hefner. He taught me it could be fun to be a perfectionist. In his eyes, the magazine could always be better, and it was our job to make it so. But his enthusiasm was infectious. He wasn't criticizing us, he was inspiring us. He was encouraging us to go even farther in our quest to put out a good magazine. We would get caught up in his enthusiasm and become equally enthusiastic, a feeling that would last long after every meeting. It was truly the mark of a great executive and creative leader when he can inspire you to feel his passion and when he can create a world in which his passion becomes your passion. Pleasing Hef made us very happy. Not surprisingly, pleasing Hef made Hef very happy. He was very generous with his praise when we did something right. Of course, sometimes we faltered. On a handful of occasions over my 34 years of working with Hef, I might have displeased him. He let me know with a certain Hefnerian fury. It was not fun. But those moments were instructive too, and inspiring in their own way. After a couple of hours at the Playmate House, Hef decided to return to the mansion. "Do you want a ride?" I asked. "No, I'll walk," he said. Tom Stabler volunteered to walk with him. It's not a long walk, but as you all know, there are no sidewalks here in Holmby Hills. They're too expensive. When Tom and Hef arrived at the back gate of the mansion, Hef said to Tom, "When you coming traffic. That way you won't get hit by a car." That's another thing you should know about Hef. He not only inspired us, he took care of us. We were very lucky to have that, and we will all miss that very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Dick Rosenzweig, as most of you know,